So you know how with most games, they drop a trailer and you wait like 3 months or 6 months for the next trailer or the next information? Yeah, we've had 3 Borderlands trailers in a week. It's madness. But anyway, they dropped a trailer today, announced the release date. It's September the 13th, so mark that in your calendars. September the 13th is when we will be playing Borderlands 3 later this year. Incredibly excited, but alongside that information, there was also a new trailer. Admittedly, some of the footage in this trailer is recut from the last one, but there is some new stuff that I want to go over, and there was also a press release that went out alongside the trailer that confirmed some information. So we're going to go through all of that in this video. So if you do enjoy this, then a like would be super appreciated. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments down below, and also let me know if you guys are going to put together any launch day plans. Are you going to have any crazy group LAN parties or split screen parties? Let me know what your plans are. And of course, if you haven't entered our giveaway for a chance to win a Pokemon Let's Go Nintendo Switch, that is almost finished. Enter it now if you haven't done so already, and be sure to turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our future Borderlands content, because there is going to be a ton of it throughout the year. Anyway, turning our attention to the trailer, to begin with, it cuts between a few different areas we've seen before. Sometimes it's kind of a slightly different angle, but largely speaking, these are areas that we saw in the original trailer. Then at this point here, we get a look at some more of those scenes where it's like the player character running through different environments. So we do get to see some different environments, but we also get to see some rather cool looking guns. This first one looks very cool. I'll admit it, I'm just always drawn to any gun that's just like red, black and white. So forgive me on that front, but it still looks kind of cool. Then we get to this scene here, which is another look at the really awesome city environment. That is one of the ones that probably stood out to me most in the last trailer. So this is like a shot from another angle, also a rather cool weapon in hand. And then it cuts through to this arena. We saw this in the last trailer. I mentioned that it's probably linked to that crazy big machine skull looking boss that throws out buzzsaws. It looks like that sort of arena where you're going to go. There'll be all the spectators and you fight inside this cage, but you know, speculation at this point. However, if we then cut over to this point, we get a look at the Siren's melee attack. You can actually see this sort of palm strike where she actually forces the characters backwards. It kind of cuts between two different characters, but you actually get to see it, which is pretty awesome. You see that in the process of doing that, you have the kind of Siren or the spirit hand that comes out of her hand at the same time. So that, of course, you know, carries on the theme from what we've seen of all the gameplay of her so far, of all the trailer segments, should I say. And then following on from that, we actually get to see a really cool backflip seat swap from the Siren in one of these vehicles. You can see that Mose, the gunner, is inside the driver's seat, and the Siren switches to the back, which is where that big, massive cannon is. We then get a look at a couple of the big machine guns or spinning guns that are on the side of Moses' Iron Bear. That's the official name, by the way, for her mech. It is called the Iron Bear. And then if we switch over to this next scene, rather interesting. I'm not entirely sure what it is right now because the gun kind of obscures it, but if you zoom in just at the bottom below the gun that's being held by the character, there appears to be some kind of mounted turret that looks like it's shooting at the bandits, so I don't know whether this is something we can kind of jump into in-game, but it's a little bit obscured, so it's kind of hard to see at this stage. Then in the next scene, we actually get to see Siren getting into that new vehicle, that sort of one wheel. It cuts to the scene afterwards where we've seen this before, with, of course, Mose driving it, but we actually get to see someone climbing inside, and it actually looks really cool. I mean, obviously, we're not seeing from, like, the typical player perspective, but I cannot wait to drive this thing, and I kind of hope it handles, like, the bikes in Mario Kart, because that will be incredibly awesome. Then the next scene actually goes on to officially confirm the names. Now, I know that we have essentially known the names up until this point, thanks to the leaks, but given that they weren't officially stated by Gearbox or 2K, it is good to see them called out in the trailer. So, of course, the first one is the gunner, and that is Mose. Not entirely sure whether that is how you pronounce it. Some people have said maybe it could be like Australian, it could be like Mozzie, but honestly, I don't know. Either way, Mose is her name. She is referred to as the gunner and not the bot jock as the previous leaks mentioned, so that is kind of her tagline title. And according to the press release, the kind of official blurb for her is that when Mose needs backup, she digistructs her mech Iron Bear for a sucker punch of additional firepower. So yeah, she is pretty awesome, and you can see her doing like a little dance there with her Iron Bear in the background. So that is what we have on her right now. And obviously, if you do want to know more about that class and more about the other Vault Hunters, don't forget to check out the Everything We Know video that I made the other day that goes over all the information we currently have on Vault Hunters, environments, weapons, locations, all that good stuff. That's linked down below. However, moving on from there, we then have Flak, who, you know, the name we knew before. However, it is spelt with a 4 as opposed to an A, given that he is a robot or part robot, seemingly by his appearance. And the rather cool thing about this one is if you jump to the second scene, we get to see him with a different pet or a different kind of like look of the pet. If you cast your mind back to the first trailer when he had his skag buddy running alongside him, Now, the interesting question here is you'll notice that this guy also has the little red scarf, just like the Skag did. So it's going to be interesting to know whether the pets themselves will potentially evolve throughout the game, or whether this is a completely separate pet altogether. There was that one scene in the last trailer where Flak was surrounded by 3 different creatures, and I kind of speculated at that point that maybe they were his 3 different pets, but of course seeing this one now, the question is whether it is an evolution of, say, his Skag, maybe you can customize it in different ways, or whether it is one of his completely different pets, and the 3 that we saw him with in the last trailer were simply just different creatures at the same time. So obviously, until we actually get a look at his skill tree, we won't know what pets he has available, but we do get to see a different version here, and there's also some hearts kind of, coming out the pets, so I don't know whether there's some kind of way to interact with your pets and, have that little Tamagotchi feel where you can pet them or something. That would be kind of cool. But anyway, the official blurb for this Vault Hunter is that Flak lives for the hunt, so do the loyal beasts that follow their master's every command. Their preferred prey? Unsuspecting bandits, those poor suckers. Then moving on from there, we then get a look at Amara, who is of course the Siren. That is the tagline, quite simply, as you would expect. We do, however, get a look at her ground pound ability. We saw a snippet of it in the last trailer, but we didn't actually get to see it from this perspective, so you can actually see that now she launched into the air, she has that Rasengan-like projectile in her hand, and then all of the fists around her just slam into the ground. This looks incredibly awesome. And for her, she is described as a confident, capable brawler with the ability to summon ethereal fists. Amara uses her siren powers to smash her enemies. And then finally, we have Zane, who admittedly, of the Vault Hunters, is the one that we know the least about. He is the operative. We do get a look at another ability of his in this scene here. He actually summons out this drone. Now, not entirely sure what that drone will do just yet, whether it's an attack drone, a buff drone, a defense drone. Who knows, but we do get a look at that again later on in the trailer, but the description for him is that he specializes in battlefield gadgetry. Zane is said to be extremely proficient at slipping into combat, creating chaos, and sneaking back out as if he was never there. Then the next part of the trailer goes on to show the Calypso twins. We already know their names, they're confirmed already. We have Tyrene and we have Troy. The rather interesting thing about this scene is that they actually appear to be holographic projections, almost like, in those kind of movies where you have the evil villains and they have this big meeting to talk about how they're going to take over the world, and then there's invariably 1 or 2 of them that actually aren't there, they're just projections. I feel like that's kind of what's going on here. Either that, or they're just sort of speaking to the people. Either way, this might nod to some kind of story segment where they're either speaking to someone or maybe reporting to someone, because we don't know just yet whether they are the ultimate top tier bad guys or whether these are kind of just henchmen for some bigger, evil, more powerful being. It is also worth calling out that from the press briefing, the description around the Calypso twins says, "Stop the fanatical Calypso twins from uniting the bandit clans and claiming the galaxy's ultimate power. Only you, a thrill-seeking Vault Hunter, have the arsenal and allies to take them down." So we at least know that's their motive. They're trying to unite the bandit clans, so obviously they can kind of build an army around it, which you can clearly see in the trailer whenever they have bandits running alongside them. Then after that, there's a fast cut segment which goes through a few different things. We get a look at that flamethrower bandit again. We get a look at those really cool mech-looking units that we saw in the last trailer. The way they drop in and their guns, they look incredibly awesome. We then get a look at this rather interesting creature over here. It then cuts through various different sections. We see some more vehicle customization with some colors. We see a big belly bandit. We see a rejuvenator flying out at one of the enemies that has just been killed. We then see Amara wielding this hefty rocket launcher. We get a look at Zane wielding what looks to be some kind of hefty cryo sniper rifle. And then after that, a look at a bag ton more loot. The other thing worth calling out again, as mentioned in the last video, is that these trailers continue to emphasize new worlds plural and the fact that it shows planets. So I really do think it is trying to stress that we will be visiting different planets and that the environments we've been seeing are potentially not just different biomes on the same planet, but are in fact different planets, which could be incredibly awesome. We get a look at some wildlife on the planets, and then we get a quick look at split screen. So of course the game will feature split screen, as they mentioned. So we get a quick scene of some Vault Hunters driving some vehicles in split screen configuration. And then if we jump forward a little bit more, we get a look at 2 Vault Hunters working in co-op in split screen. This time you see Amara climbing on the top of the Iron Bear. So of course Moses on the bottom screen using the mech. We can see that from the guns on screen. And then above that you can see, as mentioned, the Iron Bear does have the ability for someone to climb on top, get in there and fire from the mounted turret position. We then get another quick look at Zane's drone. We see the Atlas building there in this big, awesome looking city. And then we see this really cool looking new vehicle, or at least this, attachment to a vehicle with this crazy plasma extension to it or customization option. It's got these little plasma wings, this plasma battering ram at the front. So that's pretty sweet. I would like to imagine that if you drive that into bandits, it's probably just going to kill them straight away. So Yeah, let me have that. And then we see this big stained glass window featuring Troy and featuring Tyreen. And there are a lot of people down below that are worshipping them. So that clearly kind of goes to show the way that they operate, the way that they are kind of seen by some of the people that follow them. So no doubt there's going to be like a lot more story implications in here. But they definitely have that whole sort of fanatical thing going on. Then if we move forward a little bit more, we actually get to see that Amara is running forward, firing her gun with all of her arms protected behind her. So I would imagine this is some kind of buff state that she can be in for a period of time. I'm not entirely sure what it does right now, but the fact that this is not just seen when she performs moves, but it's actually also seen when she is moving along is rather interesting. However, the next scene is rather interesting because from the leaked information, we know that Amara is also capable of creating kind of an ethereal projection of herself. And we haven't actually seen this in the gameplay or the trailer just yet. We've seen her doing the phase lock, we've seen her doing the ground pound, but in this one, you'll actually see that there is a projection of herself that kind of creates all these arms around her if we step a little bit further forward, but you can see that it is definitely different to the ground pound because in that one, she's typically in the middle of it. Meanwhile, with this one, it actually seems to appear in front of her, so perhaps this is something she can use maybe for more ranged attacks. Maybe she can kind of sort of send the projection out to, you know, attack someone like that. So that is rather interesting to note. But also rather interestingly, on the left-hand side, if you take a look at Flack, he puts his hand up. There's this little like energy projection that appears in front of him, and then just towards the end of the scene before the camera clips off, you can see what looks like either a tail or a claw of potentially another creature. So this could well be the way in which he summons his pets. Maybe if they are dead, maybe if they're off cooldown, then maybe this is how he can kind of throw them out. Or maybe this is just like a pet-based move where instead of summoning a pet out, he kind of just throws it out and it's like a projectile attack. Not entirely sure, but it is kind of worth calling out because if you pay attention to his arm and the sort of stuff that comes from it, it clearly is his move. Then after the logo comes up on screen, we get a few very quick flashes. We have a bandit mask in what looks like sort of thermal vision. We then have a really bright, vibrant looking bandit mask, which is really cool. I actually kind of want to see the full art for this because that would make a mighty nice wallpaper. It then quickly flashes to the Mask of Mayhem teaser, which of course was all these different characters forming this mask, and then it cuts out into the awesome pack shot, which is of course what will be on the boxes. There are various different configurations, there are various different SKUs that you can buy, and I'll probably do a video going over all of those at some point as well, but for the time being, this is the official art for Borderlands 3. I do want to note that there is a spaceship at the very top flying upwards, which again I feel like goes linked to illustrate that we will potentially be leaving the planet and kind of going to multiple planets. Maybe I'm stretching, but either way, very awesome artwork there. Bandit in the middle, assuming this sort of like holy stance. Ton of weapons around him, grenade in the center. Very, very awesome artwork. And then that, of course, also goes into the official release date, which again, if you didn't see the beginning of the video, is the 13th of September. So, that, my friends, is a complete breakdown of the most recent trailer. There are the most noteworthy things in the video. There may well have been some things that I missed. If I did miss anything, let me know in the comments down below. I will have some more videos. I'm working on some other videos this week to speak about some other topics, so do stay tuned if you want to catch all things Borderlands. But in the meantime, thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thanks very much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to check out some more awesome stuff from us here at Arekkz Gaming, then you should definitely try to catch 269 and Paradise Central streaming 6 days a week. You can find a link to the multi-stream in the description box down below. They play a wide range of games, and what's more, we also have the Endgame store. By watching their streams, you earn currency, and you can redeem that currency on the Endgame store for really cool prizes. Those can range from things like games, comics, and figures, all the way up to controllers, capture cards, and even consoles. So definitely drop by and become part of the community. Of course, if you enjoyed this video, then make sure you're subscribed and be sure to click on that little bell icon to turn on notifications so you don't miss our next upload. You can watch more videos by clicking on the options here. But once again, thanks very much for watching, take it easy, catch you next time, peace out.